Kendi's heart hammered as she walked through the gates of Seoul National Medical University, but it wasn't her name on the student ID in her pocket. It was her twin brother's. Kofi, who was supposed to be in classes right now, but was actually in a hospital bed fighting for his life. Kofi, who everyone said got drunk and fell off a roof, even though he never touched alcohol. Kofi, who Kendi knew was pushed by someone who thought they could get away with murder. So she'd done the unthinkable. Cut her hair, stolen his identity, and walked into his life to find the truth everyone refused to see. Students rushed past her, none of them knowing that the boy they thought was Kofi Mwangi was actually his sister, playing the most dangerous game of her life. She had no medical training, no backup plan, and no idea who the killer was. But she had something more powerful than any of that. She had a sister's love and a promise to keep, and she would tear this entire university apart to keep it. The scissors felt cold against Kendi's neck. She stared at her reflection in the tiny bathroom mirror of her Johannesburg flat, her thick braids hanging past her shoulders, the same braids Kofi always said made her look like a queen. Her hands shook as she positioned the blades. One cut. That's all it would take to cross a line she could never uncross. "I'm sorry, Mama," she whispered, then snipped. The first braid fell into the sink with a soft thud, then another, and another. Brown strands piled up like fallen soldiers until the girl in the mirror disappeared and someone else emerged. Someone who looked exactly like her twin brother, lying in a hospital bed 5,000 miles away. Someone the people who hurt him would never see coming. 72 hours earlier, Kendi had been happy. Tired, sure. Working 3 jobs to keep herself afloat wasn't easy, but every time exhaustion crept in, she'd remember why she was doing it. Kofi, her baby brother, younger by 7 minutes, living their shared dream at Seoul National Medical University. The best medical school in Asia, maybe the world. Their weekly video calls were her oxygen. "Kendi, you won't believe what happened in anatomy lab today," Kofi had said 3 weeks ago, his face bright on her cracked phone screen. Professor Kim actually smiled. I thought his face might break. She'd laughed, munching on cheap instant noodles while he showed off the campus behind him. Students rushing past, cherry blossoms starting to bloom, everything looking like a movie. But then the call stopped. First week, she'd told herself he was busy. Exams, maybe. Second week, she'd sent 12 messages, all unread. By week 3, the knot in her stomach had grown teeth. Then her phone rang at 2 in the morning. "Is this Kendi Mwangi?" The voice was crisp, professional, speaking English with a Korean accent. "Yes, who is this?" "I'm calling from Seoul National University Hospital. Your brother, Kofi Mwangi, has been admitted. There's been an accident." The room had tilted. What kind of accident? "He fell from a rooftop. He's currently in intensive care in a coma. The doctors say the next 48 hours are critical." Kendi's vision blurred. "What do you mean he fell? Kofi doesn't even like heights. He wouldn't go on a rooftop." "According to witnesses, there was a party. He'd been drinking." "I'm very sorry." "Drinking?" Kendi's voice rose. "Kofi doesn't drink. Not ever. Our father died from alcohol poisoning. He would never, you don't understand." "Miss Mwangi, I'm simply relaying what the police report says. If you want more information, you'll need to come to Seoul." She'd maxed out 2 credit cards and borrowed money she didn't have to book the next flight out. Seoul was cold. Not just the weather, though March still carried winter's bite, but the way people looked through her instead of at her. The hospital was massive, sterile, filled with people moving with purpose while she stood lost in the lobby, clutching a piece of paper with Kofi's room number. Room 412, intensive care unit. Nothing could have prepared her for seeing him. Kofi lay surrounded by machines, tubes running from his arms, a ventilator breathing for him. His face was swollen, bruised purple and yellow, a bandage wrapped around his head. He looked small. Her brother, who'd grown taller than her in 10th grade, who'd always stood so straight, looked broken. "Kofi," she'd whispered, taking his hand. It was warm but limp. "I'm here. Wake up, please wake up." He didn't move. A doctor came in, young, wearing thick glasses. "You're his sister?" "Twin sister. What happened to him?" The doctor pulled up a tablet, scrolling through notes. "Severe head trauma from a fall of approximately 6 meters. 3 broken ribs, fractured left arm, internal bleeding, which we've managed to stop. He's stable, but the brain swelling is our primary concern." "When will he wake up?" The doctor's expression said everything his words didn't. "We don't know. Could be days, could be weeks, could be never. I'm sorry." "Everyone keeps saying sorry, but no one's telling me the truth." Kendi's voice cracked. "What was my brother doing on a rooftop? Who was he with?" The police investigated. Students reported seeing him at a party on the dormitory roof. He'd been drinking, and he fell. An accident. "He doesn't drink." The doctor shrugged, not unkindly. "Perhaps you didn't know him as well as you thought." That sentence had burned. Kendi spent the next 2 days trying to find answers. She went to the university, a sprawling campus that made her feel microscopic. The administration office was all polished wood and cold efficiency. "I need to speak to someone about my brother, Kofi Mwangi." The woman behind the desk barely looked up. "The student who fell? Police already investigated. Case is closed. But I need to know what happened. Can I talk to his friends? His roommate?" "We cannot give out student information. Privacy laws." "I'm his sister." "Unless you're listed as his emergency contact, I cannot help you." Kendi wanted to scream. She'd sacrificed everything so Kofi could be here, and now they wouldn't even tell her who his roommate was. She tried the police next. The station was busy, chaotic, and her English didn't match up well with the officer's limited English. Through a translator app and patience she didn't feel, she finally got someone to pull up the case. "Accident," the officer said, showing her a report in Korean she couldn't read. "Witnesses say he drink alcohol, fall from roof. No suspicious." "Can I see the witness statements?" "Case closed. No need." "Please, I just want to understand." The officer's expression hardened. "Your brother make bad choice, drink too much. Sad, but happen. Go home." Every door slammed in her face. Every question met with walls. On the 3rd day, Kendi returned to Kofi's dormitory. It was a tall building, modern, with students streaming in and out. She waited outside, stopping anyone who'd listen. "Did you know Kofi Mwangi? He's in the hospital." Most shook their heads and hurried past. A few recognized the name but claimed they barely knew him. Finally, a girl with bright pink streaks in her hair stopped. "You're asking about Kofi?" "Yes. Did you know him?" The girl glanced around nervously. "A little. I'm in his physiology class." "What happened that night? Please, I'm his sister." "I wasn't at the party, but I heard he was really drunk, like stumbling around. It was weird because I'd never seen him drink before." "So, you knew he didn't normally drink?" "Yeah, he was always pretty serious. Studied a lot." The girl bit her lip. Look, I probably shouldn't say this, but the week before the fall, Kofi seemed really stressed. Paranoid almost. Kendi's pulse quickened. Paranoid how? He kept looking over his shoulder in class. Jumped when people talked to him. One time I saw him in the library and he closed his laptop really fast when I walked by, like he didn't want anyone to see what he was working on. Did he say why? No, we weren't close. But I remember thinking it was strange. The girl checked her phone. I have to go. I hope he wakes up. Before you find out what Kendi discovers next, I need to ask you something. Have you ever felt like the world was hiding the truth from you? Like everyone else could see something you couldn't? That's exactly where Kendi is right now, and trust me, what she finds in Kofi's room is going to change everything. If you're already hooked, drop a comment and let me know what you think happened to Kofi. That conversation planted a seed that grew roots fast. Kendi went back to the hospital and requested Kofi's personal belongings. They gave her a plastic bag with his wallet, phone, and keys. His phone was shattered, completely dead. But the keys, those were useful. That night, she used them to break into his dorm room. Her heart hammered as she slipped down the hallway, trying each key until one clicked. The room was small, neat, very Kofi. 2 beds, 2 desks. His roommate wasn't there. Kendi worked fast, searching through drawers, closet, under the bed. Most of it was normal. Textbooks, notes, clothes folded the way their mother had taught them. But then she found it, hidden inside a hollowed-out anatomy textbook. Kofi's journal. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The first entries were normal. Class notes, study schedules, observations about Seoul. But then the tone shifted. March 2nd. Someone went through my things while I was in class. I know because I left a hair on my laptop and it was gone when I got back. March 5th. Saw Professor Han meeting with that pharmaceutical rep again. Same one from last month. They didn't look happy when they saw me walking past. March 7th. I found the files. I shouldn't have looked, but now I can't unknow this. They're using scholarship students. We're not here on merit. We're here because we're disposable. March 9th. Someone's following me. Different person each time, but I can feel it. Min-jun says I'm paranoid. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. March 11th. I made copies, hid them somewhere safe. If anything happens to me. That was the last entry, 2 days before the fall. Kendi read it 3 times, her mind racing. Using scholarship students for what? What files? And who was Min-jun? She heard footsteps in the hallway and shoved the journal into her bag. The door opened and a tall guy walked in, stopping short when he saw her. Who are you? What are you doing in my room? I'm Kendi, Kofi's sister. I was just collecting his things. The guy's expression softened slightly. Oh, I'm Min-jun, his roommate. I heard about what happened. Is he okay? He's in a coma. Kendi studied his face, looking for any sign of deception. This was the person Kofi had mentioned in his journal. Did you notice anything strange about him before the accident? Min-jun shrugged, tossing his bag onto his bed. Not really. He was stressed about exams like everyone else. He didn't mention being followed. Followed? Min-jun laughed, but it sounded forced. No, nothing like that. Why would anyone follow him? You tell me. Look, I'm sorry about your brother, but he made a bad choice that night. Got drunk, fell off a roof. It's tragic, but it happens. Kofi didn't drink. Min-jun's eyes flickered with something. Annoyance, maybe. People change when they're under pressure. Medical school is intense. Maybe he needed to blow off steam and it went wrong. Every instinct, Kendi had screamed that this guy was lying. She didn't know what about, but something in his voice rang false. "Right," she said. "Well, I'll get out of your way." She left before he could ask more questions, clutching her bag with the journal inside. Back in her cheap hotel room, she read through every page again, taking photos with her phone. Kofi had been investigating something big enough that people were watching him, big enough that someone might want to silence him. The next morning, Kendi went back to the hospital with new purpose. She sat by Kofi's bed, holding his hand. "I know you didn't fall," she whispered. "I know someone pushed you, and I'm going to prove it." But how? She had no credibility here, no authority, no resources. The police weren't interested. The university had closed ranks. She was just a poor South African girl who couldn't even afford to stay in Seoul more than a few more days. She looked at her brother's face, so much like her own despite the swelling and bruises. People always said they could have been the same person, split into two bodies. Even their voices sounded similar. An idea formed, crazy and impossible and absolutely reckless. She thought about it for 2 days, poking holes in the plan, trying to find another way. There wasn't one. If she went home, Kofi's case would gather dust. Whoever heard him would get away with it. And she'd spend the rest of her life wondering if she could have done more. On her last night before her return flight, Kendi made her decision. She canceled her ticket, used the refund to pay for another week at the hotel, and went to a pharmacy, then a clothing store, then back to the hotel where she laid everything out on the bed. Kofi's spare glasses, which she'd taken from his dorm. Men's clothes in his size, which fit her too. A binding wrap for her chest. His student ID card, which thankfully didn't have great photo quality. And scissors. She'd been growing her hair for 3 years. It was part of her identity, her femininity, her pride. Cutting it felt like cutting away a piece of herself. But if it meant finding the truth, she'd cut away whatever she needed to. Which brought her here, to this moment, watching her braids fall like dominoes. When she finished, the stranger in the mirror looked back with Kofi's face. She put on his glasses, his clothes, practiced lowering her voice. "Hello, I'm Kofi Mwangi," she said. Then again, deeper. "I'm Kofi Mwangi." It wasn't perfect, but it might work. It had to work. The next morning, Kendi walked into Seoul National Medical University as her brother. Her heart tried to escape through her ribcage as she approached the main building. Students flowed around her, chatting in Korean, laughing, complaining about assignments. None of them looked twice at her. First test passed. She'd studied Kofi's class schedule, saved on his laptop, which she'd also taken from the dorm. Monday morning, 9 a.m., he had pathology. She found the lecture hall, massive and tiered, and slipped into a seat near the back. The professor walked in, elderly with white hair, and began speaking rapid Korean. Kendi's stomach dropped. She'd learned basic phrases, but this was medical terminology, complex and fast. Around her, students typed notes on laptops. She pulled out Kofi's laptop and pretended to do the same, actually just translating keywords on her phone under the desk. Halfway through class, someone tapped her shoulder. She turned, trying not to show panic. A girl with a sweet face smiled at her. "Kofi, you're back. We heard you were in the hospital." Kendi's mind went blank for a second before snapping into gear. "Yeah, I'm okay now. Just a small accident." The girl's eyebrows rose. "Small? Jay said you were in intensive care." "I recovered fast. Good genes." Kendi forced a smile, keeping her voice low and steady. Well, I'm glad you're okay. You missed the study group last week. We're meeting tomorrow if you want to come. Sure, yeah. Same time. Same time, the girl confirmed, then turned back to her notes. Crisis averted. Barely. After class, Kendi followed the flow of students, trying to blend in. Several people nodded at her in recognition. She nodded back, keeping interactions minimal. Every conversation was a minefield. She made it to the library and found a quiet corner. Time to figure out what Kofi had discovered. The journal mentioned files, pharmaceutical reps, scholarship students being used. Used for what? Kendi opened Kofi's laptop and started searching. His browser history showed multiple visits to the university's medical research database, the ethics committee page, and several news articles about clinical trials. One bookmark caught her eye. An article about a pharmaceutical company called Haniel Pharmaceuticals that had been fined 2 years ago for ethics violations in drug testing. The company's CEO had connections to Seoul National University, sitting on the board of directors. She dug deeper, finding Kofi's saved files. Most were class notes, but buried in a folder labeled Anatomy Drawings, she found documents that definitely weren't drawings. Consent forms. Dozens of them. All signed by scholarship students, all agreeing to participate in a clinical trial for a new cognitive enhancement drug. The trial was supposed to be voluntary with full disclosure of risks. But Kendi found emails, screenshots Kofi had taken, showing something else entirely. Students were being told the trial was mandatory for scholarship renewal, that if they didn't participate, their funding would be pulled, and the risks being disclosed were minimal compared to the real side effects listed in the actual drug data. Headaches, nausea, memory problems. Those were in the consent forms, but the internal documents showed worse. Seizures, liver damage, psychological breaks. 2 students from last year's trial had dropped out of school. One was hospitalized. Oh, Kofi, Kendi breathed. What did you stumble into? A shadow fell across the table. Kendi looked up to find a guy standing there, attractive in an effortless way, with dark eyes that seemed to see too much. You're not Kofi, he said quietly. Kendi's blood turned to ice. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. He sat down, across from her, uninvited. Kofi bites his nails. Yours are perfect. Kofi has a scar on his left hand from a childhood accident. You don't. And Kofi never, in the 6 months I've known him, looked scared in a classroom. You look terrified. Her mind raced through options. Run, deny, attack. She chose honesty or a version of it. If you know I'm not him, why are you sitting here instead of reporting me? Because Kofi's my friend, and I don't believe he got drunk and fell off a roof. The guy leaned forward. I'm Tae-hyun. I'm in his study group, and I think someone pushed him too. Kendi measured him with her eyes. Trust was a luxury she couldn't afford, but she also couldn't do this alone. I'm his twin sister, Kendi. Tae-hyun nodded like this confirmed something. That makes sense. You look exactly like him, but you move differently. Softer. And you smell like flowers. Kofi always smells like coffee and old books. Are you going to turn me in? That depends. What's your plan? Find out who hurt my brother and make them pay. A slow smile spread across Tae-hyun's face. Then we're on the same team. But you should know, this goes higher than you think, and the people involved don't play nice. Neither do I, Kendi said. Good. Tae-hyun pulled out his phone. Because you're about to get your first test, Professor Han just posted that all scholarship students need to attend a mandatory meeting tomorrow afternoon. I'm guessing it's about the trial. Kendi felt her pulse quicken. Kofi was on scholarship. Exactly, which means you need to be there. But Professor Han knew Kofi pretty well. He's been his academic advisor since first year. If anyone's going to see through your disguise, it's him. Then I'll have to be convincing. Tae-hyun studied her for a long moment. You really love your brother, don't you? He's my other half, Kendi said simply. Whoever tried to take him from me is going to wish they hadn't. Fair warning, there are cameras everywhere on campus. Security is tight, and if you're caught impersonating a student, you won't just get expelled, you'll probably get arrested and deported. I know the risks. Okay then. Tae-hyun stood. Meet me at the cafe across from the medical building at noon tomorrow. I'll help you prepare for the meeting. And Kendi, be careful who you trust. Kofi thought Min-jun was his friend too. He walked away before she could respond, leaving her with more questions than answers. That night, Kendi practiced being Kofi. She watched videos of him she had on her phone, studying how he moved, talked, laughed. She lowered her voice until her throat hurt. She walked with longer strides, took up more space, sat with legs apart instead of crossed. Being a man was exhausting. At 11 p.m., her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Stop asking questions or you'll end up like your brother. Her hands shook as she read it again. Someone knew. Someone was watching. Good, she thought. Let them watch. Let them worry. She texted back, "Try me." Then she turned off her phone and went to sleep with scissors under her pillow, just in case. The next morning brought new challenges. Kendi had to navigate the men's bathroom, which involved significant anxiety and careful timing to use a stall when no one else was around. She had to sit through organic chemistry, a subject Kofi excelled at, and she barely understood. And she had to avoid Min-jun, who kept trying to catch her eye across the cafeteria at lunch. At noon, she met Tae-hyun at the cafe. He slid a folder across the table. Background on Professor Han. He's been at the university for 15 years, published extensively, very respected. He's also the primary investigator for the Hanoi Pharmaceuticals trial. Kendi flipped through the documents. So, he's the one recruiting students? Recruiting is a generous word. Coercing is more accurate. Tae-hyun sipped his coffee. My roommate was approached last month. They told him his scholarship was under review for poor performance, which was a lie. His grades are excellent. Then they said participating in the trial would look good on his record, show commitment to medical advancement. Did he do it? No, because his family has money. They can't actually touch his scholarship. But students like Kofi, international students who have no safety net, they don't have a choice. Kendi felt rage building in her chest. How many students are in the trial? Currently? 23. Over the past 2 years? Maybe 60. And how many have had serious side effects? Tae-hyun's expression darkened. More than the official reports say. There was a girl last year, brilliant student, top of her class. 3 months into the trial, she had a seizure during an exam. The university said it was a pre-existing condition. Her family said she'd never had seizures before in her life. She lost her scholarship and had to withdraw. Let me guess. She was on scholarship? Full ride? Just like Kofi. The pieces were clicking together. They're targeting vulnerable students because they're less likely to fight back. If something goes wrong, they can blame pre-existing conditions or academic stress. And if the students complain, they lose everything. Now you're getting it. Tae-hyun checked his watch. The meeting starts in 2 hours. Professor Han will probably give a presentation about the trial's importance. Make it sound noble and necessary. Then he'll have students sign updated consent forms. You need to sign like Kofi would. Act interested, but not too interested. And for the love of everything, don't let him look at you too closely. What if he asks about the accident? Play it down. Say you don't remember much, that you're recovered and ready to get back to work. Academics first, that's very Kofi. Kendi absorbed this. Grateful for the help, but also aware that Tae-hyun could be playing his own game. Why are you helping me? What's in this for you? Honestly? Tae-hyun met her eyes. My older sister went to this university 5 years ago. She was in a trial too, different drug, same company. She dropped out 2nd year and won't tell our family why. She's never been the same since. So maybe I'm helping you, or maybe I'm helping me. Either way, we both want the same thing. That was fair. Alliance of convenience. The meeting was held in a small auditorium. Kendi counted 22 other students, all looking various shades of nervous. She recognized a few from classes. Professor Han stood at the front, silver-haired and distinguished, with a kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes. Thank you all for coming. He began in English, since several students were international. I know you're busy with midterms, so I'll make this brief. As participants in the cognitive enhancement trial, you're contributing to groundbreaking research that could change medical education forever. He clicked to a presentation slide showing brain scans. Our preliminary results are extraordinary. Students in the trial show improved memory retention, faster processing speeds, better performance under stress. This drug could level the playing field for students from disadvantaged backgrounds, giving everyone an equal shot at success. Kendi wanted to throw something. He was framing exploitation as opportunity. We're entering phase 2 of the trial, which requires updated consent and a slightly increased dosage. I have forms for each of you. He gestured to a stack of papers on a desk. Please read carefully and sign. As always, participation is completely voluntary, though I'll remind you that this trial is funded by the same foundation that provides your scholarships. There it was, the threat wrapped in velvet. Students filed up to get forms. Kendi joined them, keeping her head down. She took a form and returned to her seat, scanning the document. It was full of medical jargon and legal language, but the key part was clear. Participants agreed to increased dosage and extended monitoring, and waived rights to legal action in case of adverse effects. Excuse me, Professor? A brave student raised her hand. What exactly are the risks of the increased dosage? Professor Han's smile tightened. All risks are outlined in the documentation. Standard trial protocols apply. If you have specific concerns, we can discuss them privately. Translation: shut up and sign. Kendi's turn came to submit her form. She walked to the front, paper in hand, trying to channel Kofi's quiet confidence. Professor Han took the form, glancing at the signature. Then he looked up at her. Their eyes met and Kendi's heart stopped. He stared at her for what felt like an hour, but was probably 3 seconds. Kofi, he said slowly, I heard about your accident. You seem to have recovered remarkably quickly. Yes, sir, I was lucky. Indeed. A fall from that height usually results in much more severe injuries. His gaze was sharp, searching, or a longer hospital stay, at minimum. I have a hard head. Kendi tried for a light tone. Apparently. Professor Han set the form aside. We should schedule a meeting to discuss your academic progress. You've missed several classes. I'd hate for this to impact your scholarship status. There was the threat again, subtle but clear. Of course, Professor. Whenever is convenient for you. My office, Friday afternoon. Don't be late. Kendi nodded and walked away, forcing herself not to run. Every instinct screamed that he knew something was wrong. Outside the auditorium, Kendi leaned against a wall and tried to breathe normally. Her hands were shaking. Professor Han suspected something, she was sure of it. That went well. Tae-hyun appeared beside her, voice dripping with sarcasm. He looked at you like you were a science experiment. Thanks, that makes me feel so much better. Come on, we need to move. Don't look now, but there's a guy in a black jacket who's been watching you since you left the meeting. Kendi's stomach dropped. Where? I said don't look. Just walk with me, act natural. They headed toward the library, taking a winding path through campus. Tae-hyun kept up casual conversation about classes, while Kendi resisted the urge to turn around. When they entered the library, he pulled her into the stacks, between tall shelves of medical journals. Wait here, he whispered, then disappeared. Kendi waited, pressed between books about cardiology and nephrology, feeling ridiculous and terrified in equal measure. Minutes crawled by. Finally, Tae-hyun returned. He's gone. Gave up when we came inside. He ran a hand through his hair. But that confirms it. They're watching you. Who is he? Campus security? No idea. I got a photo, though. He showed her his phone. The image was grainy, but showed a man in his 30s, ordinary looking, the kind of face you'd forget immediately. Send that to me. I'll see if Kofi mentioned anyone like that in his journal. Speaking of which, what else did the journal say? You said he found files. Kendi hesitated. Trust was still a gamble, but she needed allies. He discovered that the trial consent forms are misleading. Students are being told it's voluntary, but scholarship students are basically being blackmailed into participating. And the side effects are way worse than what's being disclosed. Can you prove it? Kofi made copies of something. He hid them somewhere safe. I just need to figure out where. Tae-hyun thought for a moment. Did he have a locker? A safe deposit box? Not that I found, but he wrote somewhere safe, which means it's somewhere he trusted, somewhere meaningful. Kendi closed her eyes, thinking like her brother. Where would Kofi hide something important? Then it hit her. The hospital. He'd hide it at the hospital. What? Why there? When we were kids, our mom got really sick. We spent weeks at the hospital with her. Kofi used to hide sweets in her room, in the ventilation grate, so the nurses wouldn't confiscate them. He said hospitals were the safest places because everyone's too busy to notice small things. Kendi grabbed Tae-hyun's arm. He's in room 412. I need to check. Now. Right now. They took the subway to the hospital, squeezed between commuters in a train car covered in advertisements. Kendi kept her head down, hyper-aware of every person around them. Was anyone watching? Following? The hospital lobby was busy with visitors and patients. Kendi signed in as family, and they took the elevator to the 4th floor. Her pulse hammered as they walked down the familiar corridor to Kofi's room. He looked the same. Still broken, still silent. Machine still breathing for him. Hi, Kofi, Kendi said softly. I brought a friend. I'm getting close, I promise. Tae-hyun stood awkwardly by the door. I'll keep watch. Kendi went to the ventilation grate near the ceiling, too high to reach. She dragged a chair over, climbed up, and used a coin to unscrew the grate. Her fingers felt inside the dark space, touching dust and metal until they brushed against plastic. A USB drive. "Got it," she breathed. "Great, now hurry up before a nurse comes." She pocketed the drive, replaced the grate, and jumped down. But as she turned, she saw something that made her freeze. Flowers. A fresh bouquet on the windowsill that hadn't been there 2 days ago. The card read, "Get well soon. We miss you. From your friends in study group." That would be sweet, except Tai Hyun was in the study group, and he was right here. Which meant someone else had visited. Someone who might have seen her come and go as herself, not as Kofi. "Problem?" Tai Hyun asked. "Maybe. Someone from the study group visited recently." "Yeah, probably Hana. She's been coming every few days. She and Kofi were close." "Close how?" Tai Hyun's expression turned knowing. He liked her. Don't think he ever told her, but it was obvious. Why? Because if this Hana girl knew Kofi well enough to notice he liked her, she might know him well enough to spot an imposter. I need to meet her before she figures out I'm not him. Good luck with that. She'll definitely be at the study group tomorrow night. Then I'll be ready. They left the hospital and found a coffee shop 3 blocks away. Kendi plugged the USB drive into Kofi's laptop, hands shaking with anticipation. The drive contained dozens of files, scanned documents, photographs, email screenshots, audio recordings. Kofi had been thorough. The first document was a comparison chart. On one side, the consent forms given to students. On the other, the actual clinical trial protocol submitted to the ethics review board. The differences were damning. Students were told the drug was a mild cognitive enhancer with minimal side effects. The real protocol listed it as an experimental compound with significant risks, including seizures, liver damage, and potential long-term neurological effects. Students were told monitoring would be monthly check-ins. The protocol required weekly blood tests and brain scans that were never mentioned. Students were told they could withdraw at any time. The protocol noted that withdrawal often triggered severe symptoms that required medical intervention, and students who withdrew were flagged as non-compliant in their academic records. This is insane, Tai Hyun muttered, reading over her shoulder. They're basically using students as lab rats. It gets worse. Kendi opened an audio file. Professor Han's voice filled her earbuds, talking to someone else, a woman. The university board is getting nervous about the adverse events, the woman said. 2 hospitalizations in 6 months looks bad. Both students had pre-existing conditions. Professor Han replied smoothly. The paperwork is solid, and Hanul is paying us too much to back out now. What about the Mwangi boy? He's been asking questions. I'll handle it. He's on scholarship, completely dependent on university funding. One threat to his visa status, and he'll fall in line. And if he doesn't? A pause. Then we'll have to be more creative. The recording ended. Kendi felt sick. They'd planned to silence Kofi before he even fell. The accident wasn't random. It was intentional. We need to take this to the police, Tai Hyun said. The police already decided it was an accident. They won't reopen the case without more proof. This is proof. It's proof of academic misconduct in a sketchy trial. It's not proof that someone pushed Kofi off a roof. Kendi ejected the USB drive. I need to find out who actually did it. Professor Han gave the order, but someone carried it out. How are you going to do that? By going to the one place I might find answers. The rooftop where Kofi fell. The dormitory roof was technically off-limits, accessible only by a door marked "Authorized Personnel Only." Kendi waited until midnight, then picked the lock with tools she'd bought at a hardware store. YouTube tutorials had taught her the basics. The door opened with a soft click. Stairs led up into darkness. Kendi climbed slowly, using her phone flashlight to see. At the top, another door, unlocked. She pushed through and emerged onto the roof. Seoul sprawled below, a galaxy of light stretching to the horizon. The roof was flat, bordered by a waist-high wall, not nearly high enough to prevent a fall if someone wanted to push you. Kendi walked the perimeter, looking for anything. Evidence, clues, something the police had missed. The surface was concrete, scuffed and dirty. Near the north corner, she found broken glass from a bottle. The police report had mentioned alcohol. Had it been staged? Then she saw them. Scuff marks on the ground, like someone had been dragged. They led toward the edge. Her chest tightened. This was where it happened. Where someone had hurt her brother and thrown him over like garbage. You shouldn't be up here. Kendi spun around. A girl stood by the door, petite, with long dark hair and eyes that were red, like she'd been crying. She held a small stuffed cat in her hands. "Who are you?" Kendi demanded, trying to keep her voice low and masculine. "I'm Hana." "Who are you?" "You look like Kofi, but you're not him." Kendi's mind raced. Deny it? Run? But something in the girl's face stopped her. Grief. Real, painful grief. How do you know? Because Kofi's left-handed and you're wearing his watch on your left wrist. He always wore it on the right, so it wouldn't get in the way when he wrote. Hana's voice broke. And because I've been visiting him in the hospital, I know he's still in a coma. So you're either his ghost or his twin sister. Sister, Kendi admitted quietly. Kendi. Hana nodded like this made sense. He talked about you. Said you gave up everything so he could be here. Did he tell you what he was investigating? Not directly, but I knew something was wrong. The week before he fell, he asked me strange questions. Like if I trusted Professor Han, if I'd noticed anything weird about the scholarship students in the trial. Hana clutched the stuffed cat tighter. I should have asked more, should have helped him. Maybe if I had, he wouldn't be in that hospital bed. What are you doing up here? Same thing as you, probably. Looking for answers. Hana walked to the edge where the scuff marks ended. I was at the party that night. I saw what happened. Kendi's heart nearly stopped. You were there? I didn't tell the police everything. I was scared. Hana turned, tears streaming down her face. Kofi wasn't drunk. I was with him most of the night and he only drank soda. But then someone called him, and he went to the other side of the roof to take it. When I looked over a few minutes later, I saw him arguing with someone. Who? I couldn't see clearly. It was dark and there were people in the way. But it was a man, taller than Kofi, wearing a dark hoodie. They were arguing, voices raised. Then Kofi turned to walk away, and the guy grabbed him. Hana's voice shook. They struggled. Kofi tried to push him off, but the guy was stronger. He slammed Kofi against the wall, and then he pushed him over. Kendi could barely breathe. Did you see his face? No, he ran right after, disappeared into the crowd. Everyone was screaming, running down to see if Kofi was okay. It was chaos. Why didn't you tell the police this? Because the next day, someone slipped a note under my door. It said if I talked about what I really saw, my little brother would have an accident too. He's 14, Kendi. I couldn't risk it. Hana wiped her eyes. I'm a coward. You're scared. That's different. Kendi's mind was spinning. Did you tell anyone else you were a witness? No. I acted like I was too drunk to remember clearly when the police asked. But someone knew you saw something, which means they were watching. They knew who was where that night. Kendi grabbed Hana's shoulders. Think carefully. After Kofi fell, who talked to you? Who asked you questions? Hana thought back, eyes distant. Lots of people. Everyone was in shock. But Min Jun was really insistent. He kept asking what I saw, if I thought Kofi jumped, if he seemed depressed. Min Jun, again. He's Kofi's roommate, Kendi said. I know. They seemed like friends, but Kofi never really talked about him much. Hana paused. Actually, now that I think about it, Kofi mentioned once that Min Jun transferred to Seoul National last semester from another university, which is weird because transfers are really rare, especially mid-year. That was weird and suspicious. A door slammed somewhere below. Voices echoed in the stairwell. Security, Hana whispered. We need to go. They ran to the door, slipping through just as flashlight beams swept the roof. Down the stairs, quiet as possible, then out a side exit into the cool night air. They didn't stop until they were 2 blocks away, gasping for breath in the shadow of a convenience store. Thank you for telling me, Kendi said between breaths. I know it wasn't easy. Find who did this to him, please. Hana pulled out her phone. Here's my number. If you need help, call me. I owe Kofi that much. They exchanged numbers and parted ways. Kendi walked back to her hotel, mind churning with new information. Min Jun had been pushy about finding out what witnesses saw. Min Jun was a rare mid-year transfer. Min Jun had access to Kofi's room, his things, his schedule. Min Jun could have easily gone through Kofi's belongings looking for evidence. But was he the one who pushed Kofi? Or was he working for someone else? Back in her cramped hotel room, Kendi opened Kofi's laptop again and searched for information on Min Jun. Social media showed a normal student life. Photos with friends, study sessions, campus events. Nothing suspicious. But when she dug deeper, checking the university's transfer records that Kofi had apparently hacked into, she found something interesting. Min Jun hadn't transferred because of academic reasons. His previous university had expelled him for breaking into a professor's office. The official reason given was violation of privacy and academic misconduct. So he had a history of breaking rules and doing shady things. And somehow he'd gotten into Seoul National anyway, despite the expulsion. Someone had pulled strings for him. Kendi cross-referenced his enrollment date with the pharmaceutical trial records. Min Jun had enrolled exactly 1 week before the trial expanded to include more scholarship students. Coincidence? She didn't believe in those anymore. Her phone buzzed. Text from Tai Hyun. Study group tomorrow is at 7 p.m., library room 3B. Hana will be there. Also, FYI, Professor Han moved your meeting to tomorrow afternoon instead of Friday. 4 p.m., his office. Good luck. Great. Less time to prepare. Kendi barely slept that night. She dreamed of rooftops and falling, of hands pushing her into darkness, of Kofi's voice calling her name from somewhere she couldn't reach. At 6 a.m., she gave up on sleep and went for a run. Something Kofi did every morning according to his journal. The campus was quiet, just a few early risers and maintenance workers. The repetitive motion helped her think. She had evidence of the illegal trial. She had a witness who saw Kofi get pushed. She had a suspect with motive and opportunity. But she didn't have proof connecting Min Jun to Professor Han or to the actual attack. What she needed was a confession, or to catch him in the act of doing something incriminating. After her run, Kendi showered in the campus gym, a terrifying experience that involved strategic timing and looking at the wall the entire time. Then classes, during which she took notes she didn't understand and avoided making eye contact with professors. At lunch, she sat alone in the cafeteria, picking at rice and trying to look unapproachable. It didn't work. Kofi, hey. A guy slid into the seat across from her. Where have you been, man? You disappeared for like 2 weeks. Kendi recognized him from photos in Kofi's room. One of his classmates. Had an accident. I'm better now. Yeah, I heard you fell off a roof. That's crazy. Were you really that drunk? I don't remember much about that night. Probably for the best. The guy bit into an apple. Hey, did you finish the cardiology assignment? I'm completely lost. Not yet. Want to work on it together? This was dangerous. Kendi had no idea what the cardiology assignment even was. I'm pretty behind on everything. Maybe another time. The guy shrugged. Sure, no problem. Good to have you back, though. He left and Kendi exhaled in relief. Every interaction was a test she might fail. At 3:45, she headed to Professor Han's office. The building was old, elegant, with dark wood paneling and the smell of old books. His office was on the 3rd floor, door partially open. Kendi knocked. Come in. Professor Han sat behind a massive desk covered in papers and medical journals. He looked up, and again that sharp, searching gaze landed on her. Kofi, sit down. She sat in the chair across from him, trying to project calm confidence. I wanted to check in on your recovery, Professor Han began, folding his hands on the desk. A fall like that usually has lasting effects. Headaches, dizziness, memory problems. Are you experiencing any of those? No, sir, I feel fine. Remarkable. The doctors said you had severe head trauma. I heal fast. Apparently. He opened a file on his desk. Your academic performance before the accident was excellent. Top 15% of your class. I'd hate to see that slip because of missed assignments. I'll catch up. I'm sure you will. You've always been very dedicated. Professor Han leaned back in his chair. Tell me, do you remember much about the night you fell? Here it was, the real reason for this meeting. Not really. It's all pretty blurry. Do you remember who you were with? What you were doing? Just that there was a party. I don't usually go to parties, so I'm not sure why I was there. Witnesses said you were drinking. I don't drink. That's what makes it so puzzling. Professor Han's eyes narrowed slightly. It's almost like you weren't yourself that night. The words hung in the air, loaded with double meaning. Kendi met his gaze steadily. Maybe the stress got to me. Medical school is intense. Indeed it is. Which is why the cognitive enhancement trial is so valuable. It helps students cope with the pressure. He slid a paper across the desk. I noticed you submitted your consent form for Phase 2. That's good. We'll schedule your first increased dosage for next week. No way was Kendi putting unknown drugs into her body. But she couldn't refuse without raising suspicion. Actually, after the accident, I'm not sure I should be taking any medications right now. Maybe I should withdraw from the trial until I'm fully recovered. Professor Han's expression hardened. That would be unwise. Students who withdraw from the trial often find their scholarships under review. Budget cuts, you understand. We have to prioritize funding for students who contribute to university research. There it was again. The velvet-wrapped threat. All right, Let's pause here for just a second because I need to know something. Are you Team Tae-hyun, or do you think Kendi should trust no one? Drop a comment and tell me who you think pushed Kofi, because I promise you, the answer is going to shock you. Things are about to get even more intense. I understand, Kendi said carefully. I'll continue with the trial. Excellent. Professor Han made a note in his file. One more thing. I heard you were seen on the dormitory roof last night. That area is off limits to students. Kendi's blood ran cold. He knew. Of course he knew. I wanted to see where I fell. Thought it might help me remember. And did it? No. Pity. He closed the file with a decisive snap. I'd advise you to focus on your studies and stop dwelling on the past. Accidents happen. The best thing you can do is move forward. It wasn't advice. It was a warning. Yes, sir. You're dismissed. Kendi left his office on shaky legs. He was suspicious, possibly even certain she wasn't Kofi. But he hadn't exposed her yet. Why? What was he waiting for? She headed to the library, arriving early for the study group. Room 3B was small, lined with whiteboards, and filled with a large table. She sat down and pulled out Kofi's notes, trying to look natural. Tae-hyun arrived first. How'd the meeting go? He knows something's wrong. I don't think he believes I'm Kofi. Then we need to move fast. Get what we need and get you out before he makes a move. I'm not leaving until I have proof. Even if it gets you killed? Even then. Tae-hyun looked at her like she was crazy. Maybe she was. Hana arrived next, giving Kendi a small, knowing smile. Then 3 other students Kendi didn't know. And finally, Min-jun. He stopped in the doorway when he saw her. Kofi, you're back. Yeah. How are you feeling? Fine. Min-jun sat down across from her, eyes never leaving her face. You look different. Kendi's heart rate spiked. How so? I don't know. Something about your eyes. He tilted his head, studying her. Did the accident change you? Maybe. The other students started discussing the cardiology assignment. Something about arrhythmias and electrical conduction. Kendi pretended to follow along, but most of her attention stayed on Min-jun. He was watching her too. Not obviously, but she caught him glancing her way, expression unreadable. Halfway through the session, Kendi excused herself to use the bathroom. She needed a break from Min-jun's scrutiny. But as she walked down the hallway, she heard footsteps behind her. She turned. Min-jun stood there, hands in his pockets. We need to talk, he said. About what? About what you're really doing here. He moved closer. You're not Kofi? I've known since the first day you showed up. Kendi's mind raced through options. Deny, run, fight. But something in his expression made her pause. Not anger, something else. If you know, why haven't you told anyone? Because I think we want the same thing. Min-jun looked around to make sure they were alone. Kofi was my friend. A real friend. And I know he didn't fall off that roof drunk. I know someone pushed him. How do I know you're not the one who pushed him? You don't. But if I wanted to hurt you, I've had plenty of chances. Your disguise isn't as good as you think. He pulled out his phone and showed her a photo. I took this 2 days ago. The photo showed Kendi leaving the hospital, clearly female in regular clothes, before she transformed into Kofi. You've been following me. Protecting you, actually. You're not the only one looking for answers. Min-jun pocketed his phone. The night Kofi fell, he called me. Said he had proof of what Professor Han was doing, and he needed help hiding it somewhere safe. I was supposed to meet him on the roof, but I got held up. By the time I got there, he was already on the ground and ambulances were coming. Why should I believe you? Because I have this. Min-jun pulled a small notebook from his jacket. Kofi gave it to someone at the party to give to me if anything happened to him. I got it 3 days after the fall. He handed it over. Kendi opened it, recognizing Kofi's handwriting immediately. If you're reading this, something went wrong. Min-jun, I need you to find my sister. Her name is Kendi. Tell her I'm sorry I couldn't finish this, but she'll know what to do. The evidence is hidden where we used to hide sweets. She'll understand. Don't trust Professor Han. Don't trust anyone in the administration. The conspiracy goes higher than I thought. And Min-jun, watch your back. They know you've been helping me. Kendi's eyes burned with tears she couldn't let fall. Not here. Not now. He trusted you, she said quietly. And I let him down. I was late. If I'd been on time, maybe I could have stopped whoever pushed him. Min-jun's jaw tightened. So yeah, I've been watching you. Making sure no one does to you what they did to him. You're his sister. That makes you my responsibility. I don't need protection. Maybe not. But you could use an ally who actually knows how to fight. You know how to fight? Min-jun smiled without humor. I got expelled from my last university for breaking into an office and beating up the dean's son. It was self-defense. But money talks louder than truth. Professor Han offered me a spot here in exchange for keeping an eye on the scholarship students in the trial. Report any problems, any complaints. I took the deal because I needed to finish my degree. So, you're a spy? I was, until I realized what was really happening. Then I started feeding Professor Han fake information and helping Kofi investigate. He crossed his arms. Look, you don't have to trust me. But we're both trying to take down the same people. We'll be more effective together. Kendi wanted to believe him. The notebook in her hands felt like a message from Kofi, telling her Min-jun was safe. But trust had already burned her before. Prove it, she said. Prove you're on my side. How? Help me get into Professor Han's office. I need to see what files he has on the trial, on the students, paper files, not digital. Something he can't erase remotely if he gets spooked. Min-jun considered this. His office is locked after hours, and there are cameras. Can you disable them? Maybe. I have a friend in campus security who owes me a favor. He checked his watch. Tomorrow night, 2 a.m. Meet me at the medical building's west entrance. Why should I wait until tomorrow? Why not tonight? Because Professor Han works late on Wednesdays. Tomorrow he has a conference in Busan, leaves on the 6 p.m. train. His office will be empty all night. Min-jun started walking back toward the study room. Tomorrow, 2 a.m. Don't be late. He disappeared around the corner, leaving Kendi alone with Kofi's notebook and a choice to make. Trust Min-jun and possibly walk into a trap, or don't trust him and lose the chance to get critical evidence. She thought about what Kofi had written. He'd trusted Min-jun, and Kofi was one of the smartest people she knew. Tomorrow night, then. 2 a.m. Kendi returned to the study group, but her mind was elsewhere. She barely heard the discussion about ventricular tachycardia and defibrillation protocols. All she could think about was what they might find in Professor Han's office. When the session ended, Hana caught her arm. Are you okay? You seem distracted. Just tired. Can we talk somewhere private? They found an empty classroom. Hana closed the door and turned to Kendi with worried eyes. I've been thinking about that night. trying to remember more details. And I realized something. Right before Kofi went to take that phone call, I saw him talking to Professor Han. Kendi's attention sharpened. Professor Han was at the party. Just briefly. He stopped by, said something about checking on his students. I thought it was weird at the time because professors never come to student parties. But I was tipsy and didn't think much of it. Hana wrapped her arms around herself. What if he was there to make sure his plan worked? What if he called Kofi to lure him away from the crowd? That made horrible sense. Professor Han setting the scene, making the call, watching as his hired muscle pushed Kofi over the edge. Did you see him leave? No, I lost track of him. There were a lot of people. Hana's voice dropped. Kendi, I'm scared. What if he knows I saw him there? What if he comes after me next? Do you have somewhere safe you can stay? Family, friends off campus? My aunt lives in Incheon. I could go there for a few days. Do it. Tonight. Pack a bag and go. Tell people you're sick, you need to rest. Don't tell anyone where you're really going. What about you? You're in more danger than I am. I can handle myself. Kendi hoped that was true. Just stay safe. I'll text you when this is over. Hana hugged her suddenly, fierce and tight. Kofi's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have him. They parted ways outside the building. Kendi watched Hana disappear into the evening crowd, then headed back to her hotel. The night stretched ahead, full of anxiety and planning. She reviewed everything she knew, made lists of evidence, practiced what she'd say if caught in Professor Han's office. At midnight, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Last warning. Leave Seoul or you'll join your brother in the ICU. She should have been scared. Part of her was. But a bigger part felt only rage. She texted back, "Come try it." Then she turned off her phone, set an alarm for 1:30 a.m., and tried to sleep. Tomorrow night would change everything. She could feel it. Either she'd get the proof she needed to destroy Professor Han and everyone involved in hurting Kofi, or she'd end up in a hospital bed next to her brother. 50-50 odds. She'd take them. The alarm dragged Kendi from uneasy dreams at 1:30 a.m. She dressed in black clothes, tied her short hair back, and slipped Kofi's student ID into her pocket along with the USB drive. If things went wrong tonight, she wanted the evidence on her. The streets of Seoul were quieter at this hour, but not empty. Late-night food stalls still served customers, and occasional taxis cruised past. Kendi kept to shadows, checking over her shoulder every few minutes. The medical building loomed ahead, dark except for security lights. She circled to the west entrance and waited, pressed against the wall, watching her breath cloud in the cool air. 2 a.m. came and went. No Min-jun. 2:15. Still nothing. Kendi's instinct screamed trap. He'd set her up, probably told Professor Han everything. She should run, get back to the hotel, pack her things, and disappear before security came looking. But then a figure emerged from the darkness. Min-jun, dressed in similar black clothes, carrying a small backpack. "You're late," Kendi whispered. Camera on the east side took longer to loop than I expected. He pulled out a key card. "Security cameras are on a 15-minute loop starting now. We get in, find what we need, and get out. 15 minutes, no more." That's not much time. It's what we have. Ready? Kendi nodded. Min-jun swiped the key card, and the door clicked open. They slipped inside, into darkness and silence. Emergency exit signs provided dim green light. They moved quickly to the stairs, taking them two at a time to the third floor. Professor Han's office door was locked. Min-jun pulled out a lockpick set. "Where'd you learn that?" Kendi asked. "Misspent youth. Keep watch." She positioned herself where she could see down both ends of the hallway, while Min-jun worked on the lock. Seconds ticked by like hours. Every shadow looked like security guards. Every sound made her heart jump. Finally, a soft click. "Got it?" They entered the office and closed the door. Min-jun pulled out a small flashlight, keeping the beam low. The office looked different at night, more menacing. Shadows turned the bookshelves into looming monsters. "File cabinets," Kendi said, heading for the metal drawers against the wall. Locked, of course. But Min-jun made quick work of them, too. Kendi started pulling files, scanning contents by flashlight. Student records, research proposals, budget reports. "Here," she breathed, finding a folder marked Cognitive Enhancement Trial, Phase 2. Inside were the real consent forms, the ones students never saw. Detailed medical data on every participant, side effect reports that had been suppressed, and a list of payments from Hanoi Pharmaceuticals to Professor Han personally. Hundreds of thousands of dollars over 2 years. "He's been getting paid under the table?" Kendi said. "This is fraud, embezzlement, all of it. Take photos, quickly." Kendi used her phone to photograph every page. Min-jun searched the desk, finding Professor Han's computer. It was password protected, but Min-jun pulled out a USB stick. "What's that?" "Keylogger program. I'll plug it in. It'll capture his password next time he types it. Then I can access his files remotely." "That's illegal." "So is breaking and entering, but here we are." "Fair point." While the program installed, Kendi kept searching files. She found folders on other students who'd been in previous trials, including a familiar name. Park Ji-yeon, Tae-hyun's sister. She opened the file. Ji-yeon had participated in a trial 3 years ago. The documented side effects were severe. Seizures, memory loss, violent mood swings. She'd been hospitalized twice. The university had paid the family a settlement in exchange for an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. "They've been doing this for years," Kendi said, feeling sick. "Hurting students and paying them off to stay quiet." "How many?" "At least a dozen files here." She kept photographing. "Min-jun, we need all of this. Every file, every record. We have 5 minutes left. Then we work faster." They moved in synchronized urgency, Kendi photographing while Min-jun copied files onto a second USB drive. 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes. "We need to go," Min-jun urged. "One more drawer." Kendi pulled open the bottom drawer and found a file that made her blood freeze. Kofi Mwangi, Security Assessment. Inside were surveillance photos of Kofi around campus, at the library, in the cafeteria, talking to other students. Notes documented his movements, his research, his questions, and a final page with a single recommendation. Subject has gathered significant evidence and poses high risk to trial continuation. Recommend immediate intervention before evidence is shared with authorities. Suggest incident be staged to appear accidental. Scholarship students have history of mental health crises under academic pressure. It was dated 2 days before Kofi's fall. Signed by Professor Han and someone named Dr. Choi. "They planned it," Kendi whispered, hands shaking as she photographed the document. "They planned to kill him." "Kendi, we're out of time. I need this file." "We can't take physical evidence. He'll know someone was here." "I don't care anymore." Kendi grabbed the entire folder. "Let him know. Let him panic. I want him scared. Min Jun didn't argue. They ran from the office, leaving the file cabinet open, not bothering to cover their tracks. Down the stairs, through the hallway, out the west entrance into the cold night air. They didn't stop running until they were 6 blocks away, gasping for breath in an alley between closed shops. That was reckless, Min Jun said between breaths. That was necessary. Kendi clutched the file to her chest. We have everything now. Photos, documents, proof of conspiracy to commit murder. We can take this to the police, to the media, to everyone. The police already dismissed Kofi's case once. What makes you think they'll care now? Because now we have evidence they can't ignore. Kendi's phone buzzed. Text from Tai Hyun. Where are you? Something's happening at the hospital. Her stomach dropped. I have to go. I'm coming with you. They caught a taxi, Kendi's leg bouncing with anxiety the entire ride. What was happening? Was Kofi worse? Had someone gotten to him? The hospital was bright with activity despite the late hour. Kendi ran to the 4th floor, Min Jun close, behind. Outside Kofi's room, she found Tai Hyun pacing. What happened? He moved, Tae Hyun said, eyes wide. About 20 minutes ago, his hand moved. The nurses said it could be a sign he's waken up. Kendi pushed into the room. Kofi lay as he had for weeks. But was it her imagination, or did he look different, less pale, breathing easier? She took his hand. Kofi, it's me. I'm here. I found the evidence. I know what happened to you. You were right about everything. His fingers twitched. It was slight, barely noticeable, but real. His fingers moved against hers. He can hear you, a nurse said from the doorway. Brain activity has increased in the past hour. He's fighting to wake up. Tears streamed down Kendi's face. Then fight harder, Kofi. Come back. I need you. Kendi, Min Jun's voice held warning. We have company. She turned to find Professor Han standing in the doorway, flanked by 2 security guards. His expression was cold, controlled fury. Miss Mwangi, I presume. Since your brother is currently indisposed, no point denying it now. Professor Han, you've been quite busy tonight. Breaking into my office, stealing confidential files. He stepped into the room. That's multiple criminal offenses. So is attempted murder. Kendi shot back. I found your assessment. I know you ordered someone to push Kofi off that roof. Prove it. I have photos of every document. The fake consent forms, the payment records, the surveillance on Kofi, everything. Professor Han's eye twitched, the first crack in his composure. Photos can be faked. Accusations without credible evidence mean nothing. Then explain the payments from Hanul Pharmaceuticals. Explain why students in your trials keep ending up hospitalized. Explain why you were at the party the night Kofi fell. I regularly check on student welfare. There's nothing suspicious about that. What about Dr. Choi, the person who co-signed the order to, what did you call it, intervene with my brother? Professor Han's expression hardened. You're in over your head, girl. You have no idea who you're dealing with. A criminal who experiments on vulnerable students for money? I think I understand perfectly. One of the security guards moved forward. Sir, should we detain her? This was it. If they took her, the evidence on her phone might disappear. She could end up deported, arrested, silenced like they'd tried to silence Kofi. But then Tai Hyun stepped forward, pulling out his phone. Before you do that, you should know I've been live streaming this entire conversation. Couple thousand people watching right now. Hi everyone, Make sure you're recording this." Professor Han's face went white. "Turn that off." "Why? Worried about what you'll say on camera? Or worried that everyone now knows you just threatened a woman whose brother you tried to murder?" The security guards looked uncertain, glancing at each other. "This is harassment," Professor Han said. "All of you, out of this room before I have you arrested." "On what charges?" Minjun asked, moving to stand beside Kendi. "Visiting a friend in the hospital? Having a conversation? You're the one who came here with guards, making threats. I'll destroy all of you. Your academic careers, your futures, everything. You already tried to destroy my brother," Kendi said quietly. "You failed, and you're going to fail now too." Before Professor Han could respond, voices echoed from the hallway. New arrivals, multiple people. A woman in a police uniform entered first, followed by 2 people in suits. "Professor Han," the woman said, flashing a badge. "I'm Detective Park. We need to ask you some questions about irregularities in clinical trial protocols at Seoul National University." Professor Han's face went from white to gray. "I don't know what you're talking about. We received an anonymous tip tonight with substantial evidence of fraud, medical malpractice, and conspiracy. We've been investigating Hanuel Pharmaceuticals for months on separate charges. This new evidence connects you directly to their illegal activities." Detective Park gestured to her colleagues. "You can come voluntarily, or we can make this official. This is absurd. I'm a respected professor. I have rights. So did the students you experimented on." The detective's voice was ice. "So does Kofi Mwangi, who's lying in that bed because of you." Kendi stared at Tai Hyun. "You sent the evidence to the police?" "While you were busy breaking into offices, I was building a case. My family's lawyer helped me figure out who to contact." Tai Hyun smiled. "Told you we'd be more effective together." "The evidence was obtained illegally," Professor Han protested. "It's inadmissible. The anonymous tip led us to request official warrants. We've already secured your office, your computer, your file cabinets. Everything we find from this point is perfectly legal." Detective Park nodded to the officers. "Take him." As they led Professor Han away, he turned back to glare at Kendi. "This isn't over." "Yeah," she said. "It really is." When they were gone, Kendi's legs nearly gave out. Minjun caught her arm, steadying her. "Sit down before you fall down." She sank into the chair by Kofi's bed, adrenaline draining away and leaving exhaustion in its wake. "I can't believe that just happened." "Believe it," Taehyun said, ending his live stream. "Also, you're kind of famous now. That stream had over 10,000 viewers by the end." "Great. Just what I wanted. Hey, public attention is protection. Harder for them to make you disappear if everyone knows who you are." That was fair. The nurse from earlier poked her head in. "I need to ask you all to leave. Patient needs rest, and so do you from the look of it." "Can I stay?" Kendi asked. "Just me. I'll be quiet." The nurse considered, then nodded. "Family can stay, but just you." Minjun and Taehyun left, but not before Taehyun squeezed Kendi's shoulder. "You did good. Kofi would be proud." Alone with her brother, Kendi finally let herself fall apart. Tears came hard and fast, weeks of fear and stress and grief pouring out. "I got them," she whispered through sobs. "I got the people who hurt you. You're going to be okay. You have to be okay." Kofi's hand moved again, fingers curling slightly around hers. "I know you can hear me. I know you're in there fighting, so keep fighting. Come back to me." She wiped her eyes. "And when you wake up, you're going to be so mad I cut my hair. It looks terrible, by the way. Very unflattering. You owe me for this." Was it her imagination, or did his lips twitch slightly, like he was trying to smile? She stayed through the night, talking to him about everything. About the investigation, about Min-jun and Tai-hyun and Hana, about the evidence they'd gathered, about how Seoul was colder than she'd expected and the food was amazing, and she'd tried kimchi that made her cry. As sunrise painted the windows gold, a doctor came in for morning rounds. Young, competent-looking, she checked Kofi's vitals and made notes. "His signs are improving," she said. "Brain activity is much stronger. I'm cautiously optimistic he'll wake within the next few days." "Really?" "Really. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Sometimes patients need a reason to come back. Sounds like you're giving him one." The next 2 days blurred together. Kendi stayed at the hospital, leaving only to shower and change clothes at the hotel. The news broke wide open. Respected professor arrested. Pharmaceutical company under investigation. Illegal trials on students. Media swarmed the university. Kendi gave one statement to the press, brief and factual. She didn't want attention. She wanted justice, and it was coming. Detective Park kept her updated. They'd found everything in Professor Han's office and computers. Evidence of years of illegal trials, falsified data, paid cover-ups. Hanul Pharmaceuticals stock crashed. The university's board of directors began emergency meetings. Dr. Choi, the mysterious co-signer on Kofi's assessment, turned out to be the pharmaceutical company's chief medical officer. Police arrested him at the airport trying to flee the country. And the person who actually pushed Kofi, a hired security contractor who'd been paid $10,000 to handle the problem. He confessed within hours of arrest, giving up everyone above him to reduce his sentence. It was over. Really, truly over. On the third day after Professor Han's arrest, Kendi sat by Kofi's bed reading aloud from one of his medical textbooks, badly pronouncing terms and making up definitions that were absolutely wrong. "Pancreas, that's obviously the thing that makes you panic," she said. "And the spleen is where you store your anger. Medical school is easy. I don't know why you were so stressed." A sound stopped her. Soft, rough, but unmistakable. Laughter. She looked up to find Kofi's eyes open, brown and bright and alive, looking at her with tired amusement. "Kofi," she breathed. "Your medical knowledge is terrible," he whispered, voice scratchy from weeks of intubation. Kendi started crying and laughing simultaneously. "You're awake. You're actually awake." "How long was I out?" 3 weeks. You missed so much." "I can see that." His eyes traveled to her short hair. "What did you do?" "What I had to." She squeezed his hand carefully, mindful of all the tubes and wires. "How do you feel?" "Like I fell off a building." "Close. Roof." "Right. The roof." His expression clouded. "Someone pushed me. I remember arguing, then hands on my back, then falling. I know. We caught them. All of them. Professor Han, Dr. Choi, everyone." Kofi's eyes widened. "We?" "Long story. I'll tell you everything, but first I need to get the doctor." She pressed the call button, and within minutes, the room filled with medical staff. They ran tests, checked reflexes, asked questions. The doctor declared it a miracle, but Kendi knew better. It wasn't a miracle. It was Kofi being too stubborn to give up. Later, when they were alone again, Kendi told him everything. About coming to Seoul, finding his journal, the USB drive, cutting her hair and pretending to be him. About Tai Hyun, Min Jun, and Haina. About breaking into Professor Han's office and the confrontation at the hospital. Kofi listened with increasing amazement. You pretended to be me? You went to my classes? Your professors are really boring, by the way. Kendi, that was insanely dangerous. You're welcome. He laughed, then winced. Oh, don't make me laugh. Everything hurts. Good, you deserve it for scaring me like that. I'm sorry. His voice turned serious. I'm sorry I dragged you into this. Sorry you had to give up everything to save me. I didn't give up anything. You're my brother, my twin, my other half. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. She meant every word. Besides, you would have done the same for me. In a second. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, just being together, alive and safe. What happens now? Kofi asked. Now you focus on getting better. Physical therapy, recovery, all of that. The university already said your scholarship is secure, and they're paying all medical bills as part of their apology for failing to protect you. And you? I'll stay until you're discharged. Make sure you're stable. Then what? Go back to Johannesburg? Kendi had been thinking about that. Actually, the university offered me something, a full scholarship, same program as you. They said it's the least they can do after everything. Kofi's face lit up. Kendi, that's amazing. You'd stay? Go to medical school here? I don't know. It's a lot. You already proved you can handle the classes. You went undercover as a medical student and didn't get caught. I absolutely would have failed any actual exams. Details. He squeezed her hand. We could do this together, like we always planned. Both of us, doctors, changing the world. The dream they'd shared since childhood. The dream she'd given up so he could chase it alone. And now, impossibly, it was being offered back to her. I'll think about it, she said. But she already knew her answer. Over the next week, Kofi grew stronger. He graduated from bed to chair to short walks down the hallway. His memory of the attack returned in pieces, and he gave an official statement to the police. The case against Professor Han and everyone involved was airtight. Tai Hyun visited often, bringing food and gossip from campus. The university was in chaos, professors being investigated, trials being shut down, students demanding accountability. You're a hero on campus, he told Kendi. People are calling you the girl who took down the system. I just wanted to save my brother. You did. And you saved a lot of other people too. Students who would have been hurt by those trials, families who would have lost their kids. Tai Hyun smiled. That deserves recognition. One afternoon, he found Kendi alone in the hospital cafeteria, staring at a cup of terrible coffee. Thinking deep thoughts? He asked, sitting down across from her. Thinking about staying, about the scholarship offer. You should take it. You're brilliant, brave, and you've already proven you belong here. I'm not brilliant, I'm just stubborn. Sometimes that's the same thing. Tae Hyun hesitated. Can I tell you something? Sure. When I first realized you weren't Kofi, I was planning to report you. I thought you were some kind of spy or scam artist. But then I saw the way you looked at him in the hospital bed, and I knew you were real. Everything you were doing, all the risks, it was for love. He met her eyes. That's rare, and it's worth protecting. Kendi felt something flutter in her chest, butterflies taking flight. Tae Hyun, I'm not saying this to pressure you or make things weird. I just want you to know that if you stay, you won't be alone. You'll have friends here, people who care about you. He stood up, cheeks slightly pink. And maybe when everything calms down and your brother is fully recovered, we could get dinner sometime, as friends. Or maybe more than friends, if you want it. He walked away before she could respond, leaving her with warm cheeks and a smile she couldn't quite suppress. Okay, real talk. I need you to do something for me right now. If you've made it this far in the story, if you felt every emotion right along with Kendi, if you've been rooting for her from the beginning, then subscribe to this channel. Because stories like this, stories about courage and love and never giving up, that's what we do here. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me what you thought of this journey. Did you guess the twist? Did you cry? Let me know. Min Jun visited too, bringing news that his record from his previous university was being expunged. Turned out the dean's son he'd fought had a history of assaulting other students, and Min Jun's case was being reviewed as self-defense. Justice all around, he said. Feels weird. Feels good, Kendi corrected. Yeah, that too. Min Jun glanced at Kofi sleeping in the bed. I meant what I said. He was my friend, a real one. I'm glad he's going to be okay. He'll want to thank you himself when he's more alert. No thanks needed. We were a team. Min Jun headed for the door, then paused. Hey, Kendi. That thing you did, going undercover, risking everything for family, that was hardcore. Respect. Coming from Min Jun, that meant something. Hana visited from Incheon, relieved and happy. She brought the stuffed cat from the roof, now cleaned and repaired. I found this the night we were up there, she explained. It was Kofi's. He won it at a festival and said he was saving it to send to you. Kendi took the small cat, black with white paws, and felt tears prick her eyes. He remembered I collect these. He talked about you a lot, how smart you are, how strong, how much he wished you could be here with him. Hana smiled. Now you can be. You're taking the scholarship, right? I'm considering it. Consider faster. We need more women in our program who aren't afraid to fight corrupt professors. That made Kendi laugh. 2 weeks after waking up, Kofi was discharged from the hospital. The university had arranged for him to stay in a different dormitory, safer and more private. Kendi helped him get settled, unpacking his things while he directed from the bed. Left drawer for textbooks, right drawer for notebooks. You're doing it wrong. You're very bossy for someone who can't walk without a cane yet. I'm injured. You have to be nice to me. I saved your life. You have to be nice to me. They bickered like they had as kids, and it felt like coming home. That evening, sitting on his dorm room floor surrounded by boxes, Kofi asked the question she'd been expecting. Are you staying? Kendi took a breath. Yeah, I am. I'm going to take the scholarship. Start classes next semester. Kofi's smile could have lit up the entire city. Really? Really? We'll do this together, like we always should have. What about your jobs back home? Your life there? I'll figure it out. Email resignations, pack up my flat, say goodbye to friends. She shrugged. Seoul is home now, I guess. Seoul is cold and confusing, and the food is too spicy. I know. I love it. Kofi reached over and pulled her into a careful hug, mindful of his still healing ribs. Thank you. For everything. For not giving up on me. Never. Kendi promised. You're stuck with me now. Good. The trial began 3 months later. Kendi and Kofi both testified, along with dozens of other students who'd been harmed by the illegal trials. The evidence was overwhelming. Professor Han and Dr. Choi were convicted on multiple charges. Fraud, medical malpractice, conspiracy, attempted murder. They'd spend the next 20 years in prison. Hanul Pharmaceuticals paid out millions in settlements and had their medical research license revoked. The university cleaned house, firing administrators who'd enabled the abuse and implementing new protections for students. It wasn't perfect justice. Nothing could give back the years stolen from students who'd suffered. But it was something. Kendi started classes in September. Medical school was every bit as hard as she'd imagined, maybe harder. But she had Kofi to study with, Tae-hyun to bring her coffee during late-night cram sessions, Min-jun to quiz her on anatomy, and Hana to complain with about impossible professors. She had a family here, cobbled together from trauma and trust. 1 year after Kofi's fall, they returned to the hospital roof where it happened. Not to relive the trauma, but to reclaim the space. It was evening, the sky painted orange and pink, Seoul stretching out beneath them in all its chaotic beauty. "You know what's weird?" Kofi said, leaning against the wall, fully healed now except for a few scars. "If none of this had happened, you wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be in school together. That's a terrible silver lining." "I know, but I can't help thinking it anyway." He looked at her. "You gave up your life for me twice. Once when you sacrificed your scholarship, and again when you came here and risked everything. And I'd do it a third time if I had to. I know. But you shouldn't have to. From now on, we're equals. Partners. No more sacrifices. Deal." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over the city they now both called home. "Hey, Kendi?" "Yeah?" "Your hair grew back nice." She laughed, running a hand through her hair, now shoulder length and styled in a way that was all her own. "Thanks. Took long enough. Still looked terrible short, though." "Shut up." He grinned, the same smile that had been missing for so long after the fall. The same smile that made him her Kofi again, whole and safe. Tae-hyun appeared through the roof access door, carrying a bag. "Am I interrupting?" "No, come here," Kendi said. He joined them at the wall, pulling out thermoses of hot chocolate and paper cups. "Thought we could use these. It's getting cold." They sat together, the three of them, drinking chocolate and talking about everything and nothing. Classes and professors, weekend plans, the new cafe that opened near campus. Normal things. Beautiful, ordinary, normal things. Later, as they headed back down, Tae-hyun caught Kendi's hand. She looked at him, questioning. "That dinner I mentioned a while back," he said. "Still interested?" "Yeah," she said, smiling. "I am. Tomorrow night. Tomorrow night." Kofi groaned dramatically. "Do I have to watch you two be cute? Because I will throw up." "You love us," Kendi said. "Unfortunately." They walked back to campus together. Three friends lit by streetlights, their breath fogging in the autumn air. Behind them, the roof stood empty. No longer a place of trauma, but just another part of the city. Kendi had come to Seoul to save her brother. She'd expected to leave once the job was done, return to her old life, and try to move forward. Instead, she'd found something else. A new life, a new purpose, a new version of herself. Not Kofi's sister, not the girl who sacrificed everything, but Kofi Mwangi, medical student, survivor, fighter. She'd come here with nothing but determination and a pair of scissors. She was leaving with everything. 2 years later, Kendi stood in the medical school auditorium wearing a white coat for the first time. The traditional ceremony welcomed students into the profession, marking their transition from learners to future doctors. Kofi stood beside her, wearing his own white coat. They'd made it. Together. Their mother watched from the audience, having flown in from South Africa. She was crying, but happy tears this time. Both her children, doctors in training, alive and thriving. After the ceremony, as everyone mingled and took photos, Kendi found herself standing with all the people who'd helped her along the way. Tae-hyun, now officially her boyfriend of 18 months, who still brought her coffee during late-night study sessions and made her laugh when stress threatened to drown her. Min-jun, who'd become one of her closest friends, someone she trusted absolutely. Hana, brilliant and kind, who was planning to specialize in pediatrics and change the lives of sick children. And Kofi, her twin, her other half, alive and whole, and exactly where he was meant to be. We did it, he said quietly, just to her. Yeah, she agreed. We really did. Someone asked to take their photo. The group squeezed together, smiling at the camera. Kendi felt Tae-hyun's arm around her waist, Kofi's shoulder pressed against hers, surrounded by people she loved. The flash went off, capturing the moment forever. That photo would end up framed in their apartment, a reminder of everything they'd survived and everything they'd built from the ashes. A reminder that sometimes the worst things lead to the best things, that family is worth fighting for, and that courage looks like a girl with scissors and a plane ticket, willing to risk everything for the people she loves. Kendi had gone undercover as her brother to prove someone pushed him. She'd ended up finding herself, and that, more than justice or vindication or anything else, was the real victory. The beginning of the story had been about survival, the middle about justice, but the end was about living. Really, truly living. And she was just getting started. If this story moved you, if Kendi's courage inspired you, if you felt every twist and turn right along with her, then do me a favor. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss stories like this. Thanks for being here. Thanks for caring. And remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is pick up a pair of scissors and decide that nothing, absolutely nothing, will stop you from protecting the people you love.